Speaking of which, at some point here today, please remind me, because Colorado football is really mad at us, and I want to get back to something we've done the last couple of days.
Let me say right now, the list of people who are mad at y'all is very lengthy, and I'm having to put out fires. I'm not going to say about where or who, but I do know that I have received communiques saying, what's the deal? And I say, hey, man, that's just them. I've had to smooth over some things.
Why don't you want to tell us what some of those things are?
Unlike you, Dan, I am not leaky. Unlike Mike Ryan over here, I am not snitching all over the airwaves. I know what the value of discretion is. I am discreet.
The listeners would love to know in your discretion, because what you've done now is just tease the listener and then not giving them information. The listener would like to know who's mad at us. You're going to tell me during the break, and then I'm going to leak it or talk to somebody, and Mike will overhear it, and he'll leak it. So it'll get leaked somewhere around here. But just remind me before we get out of here today to talk about everything that's happened with Colorado, because it reminds me so much of everything that happened 30 years ago with the University of Miami. It's the modern version of us against the world in Colorado, where they think they have this precious thing that the rest of the world doesn't understand, and it just makes them all the stronger in their unity.
Minus the success.
Now, Mike, I want to ask you, hearing that, does that feel like the ultimate victory over Florida State? Is that Deion Sanders went and stole you guys' culture and brought it to Colorado?
I understand how people get defensive. Lord knows I'm a very defensive Miami Hurricane. It wasn't forget about kneeling. It wasn't a fumble. Not enough people talk about this.
That's also true.
But what I will say is Colorado, if you're struggling with this, you gotta toughen up. Like there was a report out there that spoke to anonymous people. You're lucky. Mainstream. We're like the most mainstream entity that picked up on this story. Networks have their journalistic standards. Maybe it didn't meet that. That's totally fine. But this is not anything close to what Miami endured. Everybody was pretty unified in this is this program has to go. It goes on the cover of magazines that mattered at the time. They need to end this. If you're having difficulty with this, I wish you luck this season, because you actually meet real adversity and you're getting sensitive about this. Maybe you're not cut out for it.
We will get to all of that, because Miami got cut out for it after 20 years of enduring it. And Dennis Erickson, with all the winning in the world, was still throwing up into buckets before games with fever blisters, because once you have everybody on your neck rooting against you and you lose, it doesn't feel very good.
But it's also a fallacy. I kind of feel like most big media companies are rooting for Colorado because they benefit from the prime bump. Everyone saw this. Ratings were up across the board. Anytime anybody did anything with Colorado, as long as they were winning, it meant buku ratings. So there isn't this huge conspiracy of people gathering around. If anything, they're trying to shoo this story away because no one's actually covering it. So I don't think that argument holds water at all.
It's the Floyd Mayweather thing, right? Everyone, or it feels like there's a large, loud contingency that wants to see failure, but it all hinges on him being successful in order for us to root for failure. No one wants to root for failure for a failing organization or a failing, entity. It only works when they're really good.
If you dig into any program that maybe is high profile, that maybe is struggling a little bit, doing worse than they expected, getting a lot of transfers, you'll probably find a lot of stories about this. You'll probably find stories dotted with guns. You'll probably find some stories about with violence, teammates butting heads. I don't think it's unique to Colorado unless Deion's allowing this stuff. But I think what's unique is that he brings all the attention, and so there are people, even Athlon Sports, digging in.
We will get to that, but where I would stop you is the objection it runs along a really interesting journalism fault line to me. They're not objecting to it being covered. They're alleging that it's all made up, that it's not overblown, that it's all made up, which is a different way of doing it in 2024 when you simply don't understand how journalism vetting works. But this particular reporter and Athlon Sports, which is from a different time, doesn't have the credibility you need to withstand what is presently hitting it. We'll get to that later. The guns thing is interesting, though, because I do remember watching with Butch Davis one of the University of Miami movies on ESPN where Butch Davis was revealed on the screen to have said, he gets here and says he's going to change the culture. And he says, I want all the guns. I need all the guns. And I remember I'm sitting next to him in the theater and he leans over to me and says, I didn't even get half of them.
Yes.
Shame on you. That was a private conversation.
It was. I just leaked it. Yesterday on the show, Stugotz, we were talking about this report from Steve Corder at Athlon's, and I was asking you guys, because certainly if he had reported this and done it for a publication that had a lot of mainstream access, this would be a sports scandal that would knock the Olympics off of your television screen, because the details in this, and again, there are allegations. This is all reportedly, and Deion Sanders has suggested legal action. So I'm going to bring in Steve Corder now to talk about the reporting, because it's a chaotic culture turns into locker room violence in Colorado with some of the details. And one of the players is quoted as saying it's real life Grand Theft Auto. Fights, guns, money floating around, old University of Miami stuff. So Steve Corder joins us now from Athlon Sports. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. Can you walk us through your reporting, please? Why were so many players willing to talk to you?
Well, this started a couple months ago. Once everybody started hitting the portal, so I started reaching out, and one thing led to another. Somebody would give me a snippet here, a snippet there. Oh, you should talk to this person. So I just continually reached out, and yeah, like I said, it's just kind of been building over the last 3 or 4 months.
Tell us about the gun allegations.
It's rampant there. There's a video that's circulating that I actually found after the piece where they're asking, I believe it's Bucky is going around asking who's the most strapped on the team, and people are giving their opinions. It's not just one person, it's multiple people. I found a video also last night of Travis Hunter and Deion fishing, and there's a gun in plain sight while he's fishing. So it seems like it's just part of the culture.
What do you think were the most outlandish details in your report? What were the things that you were most surprised to learn?
The incident between Washington and Jordan Seaton. Like, I understand things like that go on. Like, I'm not naive.
Tell us what happened for the uninitiated, please.
Basically, Jordan was asked to show his manhood, and him and Washington got into a fight. And there's a picture that is of Seaton that was taken, I believe, 2 days later, that he's obviously bruised. His lip looks busted. And again, this came to me after the fact, after the story came out. But, you know, like I said, I understand hazing. I understand things go on in a locker room. But it seems like it's just a little too much that's going on that need to be reported on.
From what you said, it sounds like you have more information now than you did. It sounds like better information is now available to you since you've done your reporting than there was while you were doing your reporting.
Yeah, a lot more people have come out between people sending me messages on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, just saying, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you heard about this? And it's kind of opened a floodgate. But there is, it's not a belief. There's a lot more going on than just what I've reported.
What was your reaction, Steve, when you heard Deion Sanders dismiss your reporting?
I'm not surprised. To be honest, I did a piece about a Lil Wayne concert a couple months ago, and I could tell from that I hit a nerve, because the way that they reacted, they were talking about it on campus, they were making content about it. And to me, that let me know that I was on the right track. That was just, like I said, kind of one of the first things that I had worked on. Same with this. They made a specific content to talk about the story. And it's like, if it's not true, then just say it's not true. But nobody has said that. CU gave a no comment. The players weren't specifically asked about it, but nobody has come out and said, no, none of that ever happened. So, like I said, I'm confident in my reporting.
Deion Sanders has dismissed the report. He is quoted as saying, "That's when you know you are doing well, when they start lying." Can you take me through the vetting of this? Have you noticed that the story hasn't gained traction, and that if you were working someplace other than Athlon Sports, you would assume that this story would get traction? And I don't say that as an indictment of Athlon Sports. There are like 5 entities in America that can report something like this and have it get traction.
I am somewhat surprised, but again, the amount of fanfare and attention that Deion gets, anything that is controversial, gets talked about, gets put out there. As far as vetting, like I said, I just started talking to players that have transferred and checking things out. I would talk to another player, and as things lined up, as things made sense, like I started putting, blocks on top of another, and it finally worked itself out.
What have your last 5 days been like?
It's been a little different than normal. I consider myself just a normal guy who's, just trying to take care of his family and, do what he's supposed to do for them. But I've been getting all kinds of messages and, DMs and things like that. People talking crazy, people calling me a liar, and words that I can't say on TV, and it's a little unsettling. But again, I know the truth, and the truth will set you free, as some say.
Can you explain to us why folks should trust your reporting?
I don't know if there's a reason why they should trust it. I just know I've talked to these kids, these young men. They're scared. They're worried about repercussions, whether it be players that are no longer there or players that are there. So, I'm just doing what I think is what's right, what needs to be done. If this was going on anywhere, I would think that anybody would want to know about it, whether it's the university, whether it's the state, whether it's the players' families, whatever that may be.
What do you say to folks who say, like Stugotz did yesterday, I want to hear from current players. I don't want to hear with a bunch of players who have an axe to grind.
No, I totally get that. But it's kind of the same deal. If players that are there, what are they going to say? If they speak out against Deion, against what's going on, they're going to be in the same spot as some of these other players. I have a story about a former player who was very tight with Deion. And the week before he actually was released, he spent time with Deion privately. So it just kind of goes to show you that it doesn't matter who you are. It's all about what's best for him and what he's trying to get accomplished.
How bad would you say the bullying is?
How bad is the what? Sorry.
The bullying.
It seems fairly bad, but again, I don't know if that's from what was reported with the Shiloh and Cormani incident. But I think it comes from the top. It feels, I don't know if it comes straight from Deion, but it seems like that's the culture that they're setting. And again, maybe that's some kind of NFL thing or something because he's been at that next level that he's experienced, and that's how you're supposed to handle the kids and the program. But it seems like it's, it just seems a little much.
Why aren't Colorado beat reporters and national college football reporters working on stories like this?
I can't speak on national reporters. I would think that the beat reporters are content because they have access, or they have the access that Deion allows them to have, and that's enough for them. Maybe they don't believe it. Maybe they only believe what they see and what they're told. I can't speak on any of that.
Are you going to continue your reporting on this now that things are continually pouring in?
Yes, absolutely.
And how much more is there here from what it is that you've gathered in the last 5 days since you're reporting? Like how much worse is it than you initially thought?
It is worse. There's just a lot more that's to be told, whether it be like, again, I don't know if any current players will ever speak out. But I know that there is more, and there's things that are going to come down the line within I don't know the next couple of days, the next week, but there is more that's going to come out on this.
All right, Steve, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it. Is there anything else you think we need to know here? Because this is going to, again, I will repeat, Deion has suggested legal action. Everything here is alleged. Everything here is reportedly. It's Athlon Sports. Are you worried about this legal action? Are your editors worried about this legal action?
There's no reason to worry. I vetted my sources. I checked, I double checked. I have multiple people that I trust. There's, again, I understand there's an axe to grind, there's this, there's that. But once you talk to, more than 2, 3, 4 people, then I have to go with my gut and what I believe these guys.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the work, sir.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Stugotz, your thoughts here, because we've been talking about it for 2 days, and last year we got, taken, carried away with the first month of Deion Sanders football because he was bringing marketing and fame. But I say carried away, and I don't say it as criticism. It was fun and delightful. Like, I would do it all exactly again because he has come to something that has always been done a certain way, and he has decided to do it as straight businessman.
Right.
Like, I'm going to take away all Deion Sanders comes from a locker room. I don't remember. You guys will find the name for me somewhere. In the Cowboys locker room, Michael Irvin one time took out a teammate with a pair of scissors, just stabbed him with a pair of scissors because Deion's from a different time. That Cowboys locker room was nuts on and off the field.
Wait, Michael Irvin killed someone?
No,
in
he
the
didn't
locker
kill
room
him.
with scissors?
No, just stabbed him with
someone.
scissors. You don't have to kill everybody when you hit him with scissors.
Oh, he took him out. I thought we were killing.
Everett McIver.
The backstory on that, thank you. Tony knew that off the top of his head.
In the neck. I mean,
think about that. So could have killed him. Billy says Michael Irvin killed a man. Well, he could have. I don't know. In fact, given the rage and the scissors and the neck, that formula can kill a person, and that's super dangerous.
The quote was, "Punk, get the fuck out of my chair." Then next stab it with scissors.
Yeah, that's it. I think MacGyver was in his. I think Michael Irvin wanted a haircut first.
What kind of scissors?
Scissors?
But were like the blunt tip,
question.
like they have the blunt tip ones that like kindergartners use. They use construction paper with. Then you have like now you're saying barber's
zigzag
chair.
scissors.
It's a bit different.
Yeah,
Office scissors.
the zigzag scissors
Probably not
are
zigzag
also
scissors.
yeah. Because if you're doing like cutting barber shears, then those are pretty pointy. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll get back
Thank
to
you.
you.
Please do that. I doubt it's the kindergarten scissors. I don't think.
You never know,
Dan. I feel like I do know that one. Okay. I feel like that's not what happened there. I don't think that's what Michael Irvin. I think I do know.
Well, because
that
blunt
one.
tip, yeah. Look. See these scissors? Was it those type of scissors? I don't think it was those type of scissors. If you do the blunt tip, that would explain how you don't kill someone. Because like you stab someone in the neck with scissors, you assume this ends very badly.
My point is that an NFL locker room, a football locker room in general, is probably a little bit different of a work environment, especially in the 90s, than the ones that we work in.
I think it might be like those tape cutters, like one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, from the training room.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Deion enters year 2 now, and I imagine a whole bunch of this is going to end up following him all over the place. And the only way to silence it is through winning. But it is a super different way of doing things, Stugotz, to go into every year with 50 transfers, no problem. Just going to bus a bunch of guys in here from all over the United States who are, football players in the ecosystem, the economy of making giant money in the big business that college football now is, And when you have that kind of turnover and you're running a place as loosely as I would imagine Deion would run one, you're going to have some spillage that turns into some ugly things. I happen to believe this reporting. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not looking at this and trying to question the credibility of the reporting.
It was interesting because I'm not either, by the way. I feel like he handled himself very, very well. He's confident in his sources. He's confident in his reporting. That's all you can ask.
I'm not even talking about that interview. I'm talking about in the article that
Right.
I read, I believe the reporting.
Back to Deion for a second, though, because he was on with us recently, and he was very excited for transfer day. It's like he is hell-bent on flipping over this roster every single year and giving him what he believes to be the best chance to compete for the playoffs, compete for a national championship. But, Dan, if some of this stuff is true, I can't imagine Deion lasting very long at Colorado. Can you?
All Miami did was live in this space and get their coaches great jobs in the pros. Are you kidding me? Like, what are you doing? Are you not paying attention? If he wins, it doesn't matter whether all of this is in his program.
Yeah, but UM was winning, and they were winning big, and they were winning national championships. Deion's not even close to winning.
You say that, and I understand that. You're right about that. But he expects to be in the playoffs next year. And so if he gets there, a lot of this will be tolerated. Because that's the world we're living in, Stugotz. The world we're living in is the player now has the ability to transfer and has more power than he used to have. But because the coach is still in charge and can get rid of you after a year as well, can just run you off by making you miserable, that puts the coach in a position to run things differently than they've ever been run before.
If that report came out about Miami, I feel like there'd be a lot of investigations. There'd be a lot of things happen. No, it's true,
Guys,
though.
no one cares about Miami nationally. I hate to break it to all of you.
But the U would be
like, this is in 1984.
the U would be so back.
Okay.
But Colorado is the new Miami without the winning. Like just by virtue of
The current Miami.
So they're the current Miami with more scandal.
I'm looking into this stabbing incident that happened. It is kind of insane. So I see it as described as shears that were plunged into his neck. And then when Jerry Jones was pressed on it, he said the two men were involved in horseplay. Then they asked Chan Gailey about the situation, and he also said the incident was horseplay and it's being handled in-house. And Jerry Jones apparently went to Michael Irvin and compelled him to, quote, fork over a handsome son, reportedly 6 figures, to keep the situation quiet. Because Michael Irvin at the time was on probation for his cocaine bust.
Hush money.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Do horses play by stabbing each other in the neck with scissors?
That's why my grandma, my parents, everybody always told me, no juego de mano.
That is why they would say that.
And if somebody ends up with a scissor in the neck, why? Juego de mano.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Michael Irvin also, before the incident, not once but 4 times yelled seniority.
I think
right.
The way that I remember it is that Michael Irvin wanted to get into a barber chair before anybody.
Seniority.